You want to just tell the sheriff this morning, get out and vote. Right now, it's not telling I have to. We have to. It's so your world living in those people.
I think she was straightening those up to YouTube, which wouldn't make the Zoom work, because the camera can only go one way. Zoom can pump out to YouTube. That's good.
We ready?
Ready for whatever.
No, it was gonna drop. You're going to strike. Yeah. Okay. So far. Okay. We'll do that. Bring it back when you're ready. Exactly. Exactly. No problem. Welcome, as we call it, order the regular city council meeting on this, the 23rd day of March, 2021 at 6:11 p.m. As we stand, we welcome Pastor Bruce White from the Metro Church, locally here downtown Henderson. He's going to lead us in our invocation. We're so blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Father, we thank you for this glorious day that you've given us the privilege to live in. We honor you today and we glorify your name. We consider every day a blessing that we have one more day to lift up and magnify the name that's above every name, the name of Jesus. Lord, we speak that name over this city and we declare that name over this city because the blessings that we need in this city come from you. So Lord, I pray let the blessings of heaven find their way to Henderson, Texas. Lord, let it affect the economy of this city. Let it affect every man, woman, boy, and girl that resides within the confines of this city. Lord, let their lives be blessed. Let their homes be blessed. Let their homes be healed. Let marriages be healed. Let this be an example of how a city is run and operated and how they live to give honor and glory to God. Lord, I thank you for these men and women that give up their time to serve selflessly. And I speak blessings and favor over their lives today. Be in their business tonight. Lead it and guide it. Give them the wisdom that can only come from you. For it's in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
God bless you.
Place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, Pedro Johnson is going to make an announcement to the virtual audience.
For citizen participation or comments on non-agenda items, please follow these following instructions. You will have to utilize the webinar chat feature if you are with us on Zoom today to let us know that you'd like to speak. If joining by audio telephone, to raise your hand during this time to ask a question, please press *9. To unmute yourself, please press *6. You will be asked to identify yourself by your name and address, as well as what you'd like to speak on today. To ensure clear communication, please make sure any background noise is turned off at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pause about 35, 40 seconds to see if we have anyone raise their hand. Okay, with no one raising their hand in the virtual audience, we will move on now to the citizens' comments on the agenda items.
For citizen participation on comments on agenda items, please note the following instructions. You will have to utilize the webinar chat feature if you are with us on Zoom to let us know that you'd like to speak. If joining by audio telephone, to raise your hand during this time to ask a question, press *9. To unmute yourself, please press *6. You will be asked to identify yourself by name and address, as well as what you would like to speak on today. To ensure clear communication, please make sure any background noise is turned off. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We'll pause a few minutes to see if anyone raises their hand. Nope. Okay, no one from the virtual audience raised their hand on that one, so at this time we will move on to presentations. Our first presentation is Art Russo from the Historical Landmark Preservation Update. He's gonna do it, and Art has a few minutes here.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, I'm Art Rousseau. I'm here to give you an update on the activities of the Historical Landmark Preservation Board, our committee. One of the reasons is many of you who are on the council may not have ever had to deal with us. So we thought we'd give you an update as to what's going on. It's also a reason for this update is not necessarily to rebut comments that were made by a local citizen at the last council meeting, but rather just to give you an update on what's going on, bring you up to speed with what's happening. And as a happenstance, if I happen to prove that everything that was said last was wrong, it just happens the way it is. We as a committee have been around since Henderson downtown area gained landmark status in the late 1980s. At that time, the city adopted the rules and ordinances that are put out by the state of Texas, under which the city is granted historical landmark status, and by which it maintains that status. Now, up front, I want to tell you, we are not the Main Street group, okay? Nor do we control what they do, as was said by your citizen speaker. Who we are is a group of appointed citizens who serve at the will of the mayor and the council. We're appointed by you. In fact, at this meeting, I believe you have 2 other slots that are open to either appoint 2 more people or to dissolve all of us, as was requested at the last meeting. Our recently retired chair, Buddy Gresham, served since 1988, which is 33 years as the head of this group. Ms. Evelyn Bain Craig and Ms. Alma Allen have both served over 25 years on this group. Judy Sewell has served for 10 years, Carol Ross Young for 3, and I've been working on it for 12 years. We meet only when we're requested to. We only come in when there are owners or tenants in downtown who have something that needs to be done. We do not meet on a regular basis. We try to meet within 1 week to accommodate these people so that we don't slow anything down in their work. As I said, we're simply the people who act as a clearinghouse and make sure that any modifications, changes in design, or other regulated items need to either be approved, modified, or disapproved. We leave the enforcement to the city code enforcement division, but have been called upon to intercede when timing was of the essence. As most of you know, First Baptist Church gets out about 15 to 30 minutes before First Methodist. Well, one Sunday before I could get to my car, I got out there, had 3 phone messages, and the phone was ringing. Because on that particular Sunday, one of our out-of-town owners was on the square painting the front of his building purple. Well, I had to go up and talk to him since it was a Sunday, explain to him the rules of approval, and explain the process by which he was supposed to go to get approval on color change or any sort of modification of that type. I explained about the historically approved selection of spectrum colors, and he asked me to pick a color for him, which of course I cannot do. I pointed out other buildings in town and said, those have been approved. You can get one of those if you like. And he says, but I want to work today. So I told him if he'd pick one of those colors, I would make phone calls to the committee. We would tentatively approve, subject to actual approval in a meeting after the application had been posted. He accepted it. We went forward. We tried to accommodate. You were misinformed at the last meeting that we were holding up on an applicant's approval for signage reimbursement from Main Street. We neither control nor directly interact with Main Street for their funding. The fact was, there's a lot of crossover of membership because there's not that many people who work on committees like this when you're dealing with the history of the city and trying to work on things like this. Usually there are people who are tapped for double duty. Now, as I said, what do? We operate under the guidelines established by the state of Texas and adopted by the city of Henderson. You were erroneously told that we would not approve upper level signage. We would not approve it because there was no size. We require, as is stipulated in the rules, that it be of a certain square footage based on the size of the building. Since it wasn't presented to us, we could not approve it at that time. We didn't disapprove because it was single letters, as you were told. We just couldn't approve because there was nothing for us to approve officially. We have limitations on exterior exposed frontage. The applicant at that particular instance had painted brick without asking permission nor seeking approval. This is one of the things that we as a committee have to monitor. We are charged with regulating in such that brick that has already been painted can be painted again with approved colors. But if it's natural, it has to stay natural. Up to and including the point that when the Ray Pharmacy building was stripped of the front and there was natural brick, that could not be repainted. That's the way our rules stipulate, is that it can't be done. We simply went on record in our meeting as a committee in saying that the painted brick was not approved. That's because we couldn't set a precedent. If we approve one, then anybody can come in and say, well, you approve that brick being painted, so we couldn't approve it. We asked the applicant to check into the cost and possibly removing the paint, even though we told her on the spot that it was unlikely it would be able to happen because of the paint she'd used and because of certain EPA regulations of getting it off of there. Since it has been reported that the meeting was recorded, may I say without our knowledge, it's interesting also that so many statements were made. We did not go against the color white. A lot of buildings downtown are painted white. She thought that we did it because it was white. We don't care what color as long as it's approved color. We simply say that the brick should not have been painted, period. At our most recent meeting, we were joined by 3 ex officio members of the Henderson Landmark Preservation Committee, Mayor Fulham, City Secretary Jimerson, and Director of Community Development Hughes. They were able to see again how we function. When properly documented and presented, one local contractor working on 2 major storefront projects had 7 projects approved and completed because he had done his paperwork properly and everything was there. When things are properly researched and documented, we approve almost all requests as long as they fit into the guidelines under which we are directed. We, as individuals or as a committee, may not always think that the request is in the best taste, but we are not the taste police. We simply go by the rules. The ones that are supposed to make sure that our historic downtown retains its character, charm, and landmark designation. Tonight, you're going to be asked to add 2 members to the committee. We as a committee have worked to find a downtown building owner who's willing to serve and have solicited a realtor who also has a large background in historic and landmark buildings. In other words, he lives in one. Since this committee functions well and has done so for well over 30 years, we hope that you take our recommendations into consideration when you make the appointments. As I said earlier, we realize that we are serving at the will of the mayor and the council. Thank you for your time. And since we are an agenda item, if you have questions, I guess you can ask.
Any questions for Art? If so, now's the time. Thank you, Art. Appreciate the explanation on that. That's very precise. Okay. Now we have, next up will be our representative here from Golland Morgan Petty PC, concerning our audit.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Tonight, we're going to discuss the audited financial statements for the year ending September 30, 2020. A fiscal year that will be remembered for a lot of different reasons. Very memorable. If I recall, when I was here last year, this was right before everything kind of went in shutdown mode. So things were very different and very different again today as well. We're going to focus primarily on just a few things within the report. I did spend a great little time speaking with Jay and with Karen last week, going through this in detail. So they're fully aware of everything and very comfortable with everything that was done. I do want to thank Karen and her staff for all their help with getting this to this point tonight. I think they do a great job for you, and we appreciate their hard work so much. I do want to focus first on pages 1 and 2 because that's really the reason that you hire us, in essence, is really to deal with the financial statements for the city. Pages 1 through 3 is our opinion. And basically, this shows that the financial statements of the city present fairly in all material respects, the financial position for the city, and their operations for the year ending September 30th, 2020. So what this is considered to be an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. It's the same opinion we've rendered each year when we've been associated with the city of Henderson. I want to look at a couple of things on your MD&A document that begins on page 5. I want to focus on page 4. I'm sorry. On page 6, there is a table there on your condensed presentation of net position. This is a comparative document that shows 2020 information with 2019. And I want to focus on that because, again, this is the one place in the MD&A really where you get to see comparative information. Everything else in the body of your report is just for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2020. So I think this is very useful for you as a council, and it does explain a lot of things that happened during the year. If you look there on page 6, you're going to see 2 columns presented. One is government activities, one is business type activities. As I've discussed with you each year, your business type activities, your water, sewer, sanitation operations, okay? Your government activities encompass quite a bit more. That's your general fund, which is your primary operating fund. But then it also picks up some of your capital projects funds, and it also picks up some of your special revenue funds. The capital projects funds that are most active are your street and drainage, and then your general construction. Probably of the special revenue funds, the busiest of the bunch, I would say, is your tourism fund. That's where most of the activity of your special revenue funds runs through that. So when looking at the comparison here, you're going to see that in 2019, current and other assets for your government activities was a little over 14.5 million, and it decreased to 10.6. So that's about a $3.9 million drop. Now, if you remember back in 2019, you issued some bonds to go towards your master street program. So the big change there is the change in cash that comes from spending that bond money. So that's where the big part of that is. And that was about 2.9 million. You also had several projects going on in your street and drainage, and that was $319,000. So overall, you're looking there at, that's a big portion of that drop. Now, where'd the money go? Okay. Capital assets, your governmental activities, again, shows at the end of 19, it was a little over 31 million, and it increased to $34.2 million. Now, I'm going to jump a little bit. You don't have to jump in your report, but just I'll kind of give you an idea of where all that is. On page 41 of your report, you'll see there where your construction in progress increased $3.8 million. We had completed projects of about 1.26 million. So our total project cost for things ongoing at 9/30/20 was a little over 4.5. The 1.26 million of completed projects primarily was your annex that you did. That went into service, I believe, in October of 19, right after September 30, 19 fiscal year end. So that went in service. So that was about $1.2 million. Of the 4.5 million that's in progress on constructions, you're looking at mainly street programs. Your 2019 master program makes up the majority of that at $3.5 million. Okay, so on the business type side, you'll see there back on page 6, your current and other assets again went down from 7.1 million to a little over $5 million. So that's a drop of about 2.143 million. Again, a big part of that was money that was spent in connection with some of your construction projects on the water and sewer side that runs through Fund 33. You actually spent $2.5 million towards those projects. So again, if we go back into the financial, go back in the footnotes on page 42, you'll see there on your CIP, your construction progress, it increases about $2.6 million. So there's where your money is. And that made your construction in progress $3.5 million at the end of the year. So the bulk of that is your East Side Sewer project. And then you also have a project down at the Sabine River that takes up the rest of that. So again, a lot of that will be completed in the current year that we're in. And if I get to something, you have a question, just holler at me and stop. All right, so on your non-current liabilities, you went on the governmental side, you went from 14.2 million to 12.2. That's about a $2 million drop, and that's related to your bonded debt, your payments on your debt, as well as decreases in your pension liability. On the business type side, you'll see there it was about 10.5 million in long-term liabilities at the end of 19, and they decreased about $9.6 million. All right, let's flip over to page 7. And that's where we're going to look at kind of the changes overall in your net position for the year. So again, just kind of see some comparisons there. Overall, if you look in the governmental activities column, you had an increase in net position in the previous year of 137,000, and you actually had a decrease of 313,000 in 2020. So that's about a $450,000 difference. We went through this in detail last week with Jane Karen. You'll see your revenues increased about $982,000. A big part of that consists of, you look at your operating grants and the other capital grants that came through. A lot of this is the COVID money that came in during the year, okay? Now, understand, as we have grant revenues, that means we spent the dollars. Because in other words, in order to receive those funds, we had to spend the money first. So they're part of your expenditures down below. You did have an increase in property taxes, about $311,000. And you have a very good increase in sales tax, about $539,000, even during the period of COVID when you had a lot of shutdown, you had a lot of things, a lot more people at home. But a lot of people were still going to Walmart and Lowe's and spending money. So your sales tax dollars continue to go up, and that's a good thing. Thankfully, a lot of the home projects that took place back between April and June of last year increased a lot of the spending in the community, and you were able to increase your sales tax dollars. On the expenditures, you'll see there they went from 13.2 to a little over 14.4. That's about a $1 million increase. A big part of that, you'll see your interest costs went up quite a bit, 166,000. Again, that's because we had to start paying back the 19 bonds that we borrowed we issued the year before. Overall, the other department expenses went up, pretty much in ratio. Again, a lot of that money was related to COVID money. We had some expenses we were able to incur and get reimbursed because of that as well. On the water and sewer side, the business type side, you'll see our charges for services increased from 4.9 to 5.3. And then our operational costs were relatively flat. So we were able to see I'd say an increase, even though our debt position dropped some. We had a decrease of the previous year of 331,000, but we only had a decrease of $41,000 in fiscal year 20. And I know that's one of the things you are now focusing on is trying to get your water and sewer rates in line and try to get those up to speed. I know you just recently did back in January a new rate structure to support that as well. Overall, it was a good year, challenging year. A lot of things that were different, a lot of things that were new. I do want to just jump back real quick on page 63 in the footnotes. A couple of things, and I just mentioned one about the increase in the water and sewer rates. Some of the things that have happened since 9/30/20. You had that, as well as you were gifted a 1/3 interest in the building across the street that you have, that you're going to look at opportunities there and what you're going to do with that space to possibly move some of your facilities and things over there in the future. So that's all I have for you tonight. Any questions? I'll entertain those at this time. Mayor?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for letting me be here tonight.
Thank
It's
you.
good to see you.
We have one more guest here. I don't know if Gene expects to say anything, but we would like to welcome Gene here. Thank you so very much for coming.
Sure. Thank you, Fred. I'm just glad to be able to be here in person to a council meeting finally.
Isn't that true?
It's just really, but, I'm Gene Keenan, the Government Affairs Manager for Republic Services. We appreciate you guys a whole lot. And, as far as I can tell, the transition has been better than I expected. We're still in the 90-day phase, and that's always the hardest part. But, I'm always accessible, and, Mr. Abercrombie knows I'll take care of things real quick whenever I know about it. So, that'll be here tonight.
Thank you, Gene.
Mayor, if I might also, real quick, I want to make sure I introduce officially, although she's already had a role in the ninth meeting, but Phaedra Johnson,
Exactly.
second day on the job, is our new communications and marketing coordinator with us. And so we added her to the leadership group text today. So she got, she got welcomed by all the directors all the way through lunch and all kinds of different things. But anyway, y'all welcome Phaedra to the team.
Glad to have you on. Thank you. Okay, with that being said, it's time to move forward and go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered to be routine in nature and may be acted upon in one motion. Any item requiring additional discussion may be withdrawn from the consent agenda by the mayor, a council member, city manager, and acted upon separately. Okay? With that being said, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve.
All in favor, please raise your flag. So Carol can see. All opposed, raise your flag. Okay. Consent agenda stands approved at this time. We have to do the flag thing because it's hard to see through all these plexiglass. Okay, so we'll move on down to the council business, regular session now.
Yes, sir, Mayor, I would, first, like I say, item number 6, I would like to have you entertain a motion to drop that. Timing is not right yet for that item. We will come back and visit it at a later date for sure, so.
Item number 6 will be struck from the agenda. We'll now move to item number 7, consideration and possible action upon agreement from Conterra Ultra Broadband LLC to service the city with fiber-driven internet service. I think,
Well, I'll take the first stab at it, and then y'all start asking questions, and I'm going to direct you to Councilman Cersei, okay?
there you go.
I know enough to be dangerous, but
That's where I was going.
ultimately, something we've been looking for a long time. Of course, it's hot and heavy in our legislature now, statewide and across the country, broadband internet access, and it's, for us, fiber connectivity. We finally have a provider that's putting a lot of infrastructure in for fiber coming through downtown, some other areas. Have some partnerships and agreements with some of our major businesses in town, and that's gotten it closer to some of our facilities. And so we were approached by Conterra and them wanting to add some infrastructure, and they put together the pricing for us and the commitment. Ultimately, when it's all said and done, in your packet, you see it comes out to about our, utility billing is going to be about $60,000 a year. Currently on our internet billing, it's roughly about $30,000 a year probably. So we would double that number to use the fiber, and they're also asking for an 84-month commitment. The reason they're asking for that is because they're not asking us for any associated costs with the infrastructure the infrastructure cost and putting this fiber in the ground and all the construction you're seeing downtown and different areas. So ultimately, that's where the commitment comes into play there. So we will that quote will allow all of our city facilities to be on fiber, including here at City Hall, being hubbed right here in with our server in our annex area. But it would bring in, I believe, Councilman Cersey, he took over. So just like that.
Yeah, let him go.
Pull a map up here.
Yeah, he took over for me, but it's gonna hub all of our, both fire stations, our PD, out at Lake Forest Park, the Civic Center, and our public services facility, as well as the water plant out on 322, and then ultimately in the north side water plant as well. One of these days we'll get to the south side of these two.
It's there.
It's on there too. So they'll all court, of course, municipal court, annex, all that will be on the fiber and the connectivity moving forward. So Michael, feel free to elaborate a little bit more on any detail on what that means on that connectivity and why we would want to go that direction.
Well, it's kind of a two-phase deal. Currently, most of these places do have broadband access, but to get back to City Hall, you have to hop through the internet. It's not efficient, it's not fast, and it's getting to the point where it's not safe. With all the cyber criminal activity, and we're trying to lock it down as much as reasonably possible so we don't have bad actors coming in and trying to get either personal data or customer data, payment data, all that kind of stuff. So having one hub here at City Hall versus having 8 or 9 independent connections as it currently sits it's easier to manage, it's easier to work with. And in the end, it's gonna pay dividends for us. And we're not having to pay the construction cost outright to get it built here. The ultimate goal would be to, once this is all set up and working, and as they build into the city a little more, where they can get to some of our businesses downtown and along the main corridors, and then eventually offer residential service. So you'll actually have more than one option. That's the long-term goal, but for us, we're just talking about getting faster, better, safer service.
Right. They're also working with Headco and John from the business park perspective up north, and building out, what that might look like. I know they don't have it completed yet, but I know they're still in the communication phase there. So they're working to do that. As they build this thing out throughout the city and going to all of our different facilities that we have around town, to Councilman Cersey's point, there's a lot of other opportunity for businesses as it goes through and around town and beyond, and then eventually the residential side, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. Get there for everybody to have that access and that capability. And this is, this fiber is, this is the top of the line, right? This is basically what you can get on connectivity, and then the ability to lock it down, which is important to me. I mean, we've seen a lot of cities and counties over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 years, get, kind of taken over, kind of like Councilman Cersey just did my monitor there. You've got hostile takeovers in some places, and so we don't want to be victimized in that way. So this will allow us to secure it in one main point. So anyway, I think it's a great. They've been working with us for several. We've had several meetings, several different conversations with us, and working towards this. Quite honestly, I figured the number would probably be twice what it is. But that shows you what I know about this. But I was expecting it to be a lot more than what they came with. So I'm pleasantly surprised. It is double the number that we currently pay, but I think the pros outweigh the cons, and that expense, I think it pays for itself for sure.
That fees on an annual basis or monthly basis?
It's a monthly bill.
The total package is annual, that's
Yeah.
60,000.
Yeah, the total package is 60. So it's about $5,000. Yeah, it's about $5,000 a month is the annual or the monthly utility bill. So annualize that comes out to about $60,000, right, $60,000 annually. So we'd be committing to 84 months.
Can we get a copy of it?
This?
Yeah.
Sure.
It wasn't in my packet.
No, I've read this in about 10 minutes. Now, the detail that has all the pricing and stuff is in the packet.
Not my packet.
Mine, I did not scan that. I didn't scan that. I didn't get it.
We can have it for you, before you leave. In fact, I can get it probably pretty quick.
Does Sudden Link pay franchise fees?
Yes.
Yes.
Would this be in violation of their franchise rights with the city?
Suddenly does, Karen, where'd she go?
It's cable television, isn't it?
Yes, so Suddenly pays franchise fees on cable TV, there's not any on the internet.
No business.
And this is not television. This is strictly fiber internet.
Yeah, good question.
But now they're called like Alti, they're like a different name or something now too.
Altis,
Once
yeah.
they get the check, it's not,
Oh, yeah.
it just says cable.
One very important item concerning the security of our internet system is, I got a note from TML last week, and on an average, 13 cities in the state of Texas every week get hit by some form of person stealing something. And they normally go straight to finance is where they usually go first. And get in there, and once they get in there, normally $100,000 would be the minimum that they get. Let me assure you, this is very serious. We're looking for more protection in this system right here, and you can have it, right, Cersei?
Yes, they
Better firewall.
They're going to have a 24-hour, you call them if there's a problem. If it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., somebody's coming from either around this area or Longview or Tyler, and they're coming to fix it.
Right. But it is very serious. I don't think it's going away.
Well, and if our electric goes out, we still have service as we didn't while our electricity was out. We have
Well,
phone and internet, is that?
So the switches the switches downstairs in the basement of this building that run all of the different things. All that stuff we would need all that stuff powered in, right?
Well, you still have to run your internals.
Yeah.
They still have to go to backup power.
Well, like the phone system, okay, so
Yeah.
we still build all that power.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if we're still looking for a generator for this complex, we still need to pursue
Right,
that.
right.
But their service has backup power. So they will stay on even if half the city's out.
We would get rid of all the modems
Yeah, we wouldn't
and
have,
all the different facilities
we
or all
wouldn't have a
the
dozen cable modems floating around.
and routers and all that stuff. It would all be one big, come back to one here.
Yeah, they would install some equipment to carry it all back to City Hall. And the main hub is here, and it distributes accordingly.
So do we have enough information here and data to take action on this item?
Well, if we want, I'll pause just 1 second. I know I hear the copy machine go, and we'll put that quote there in front of you all. Apologize, it wasn't in the package, but we'll have that in front of you in just a second if you want to see that before you make a decision on one way or the other. Any other technical questions that you can stump Mr. Cersei with, that'd be welcome to.
Try.
I only worked on this 6 years, so take a good swing at it.
So would we get franchise tax off of this once it goes to?
I don't think
Do
so.
the franchise,
Not eligible, no.
Whenever it goes, if it becomes, I guess, available through the residential and have choices and stuff, would that be? anything we'll get franchise tax on?
We don't do anything on the internet stuff, I believe, regardless.
Randy, let me ask you a quick question. On your SCADA control systems at the water plants, do y'all use fiber or how do you do that?
East Texas just worked the.
East Texas, okay, telephone, okay. Oh, okay. Been very reliable, I'm sure, yeah.
Pretty sure that you looked at the agreement there as well.
I did, I reviewed it, I think it's appropriate if the city wants to accept.
What's the penalty if we, end the term before 84 months?
Possible litigation.
Good answer.
Might be the answer for all of them.
Mr. Higginbotham, that's around the corner in every transaction, you know that.
Yeah.
Number 6 here is termination. I'm gonna read that, but not tonight. I might just slow y'all down. I'm ready.
Very no hurry.
I think it's a good deal.
I'm normally not keen on wanting to do something that costs more, but the benefits will truly outweigh what we're dealing with now. So I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your flag. Okay, all opposed, like sign. All right. Motion stands approved. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 8. Cheryl, would you like to speak on this item number 8?
Yes, the members of the Preservation Board have each accepted the reappointment for 1 year and 2-year terms to alternate the offset, but we have applications still coming in for the 2 new members. So if you'd want to approve the appointments for the existing members and wait on the new members till next month, you could do that or just table the item and we'll do it all next month at one time. So all the members have accepted their reappointments.
Cheryl has multiple applications to replace those 2. So, it's more than 3, so consequently, you gotta have a selection committee of some sort to go in there and make a decision.
Well, I would think that it all need to be done at the same time. So I would ask that it be tabled.
Table the whole thing.
We, Mayor said, form a committee to look at all the applicants and go forward from there.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. So at this point in time, let's just table number 8. We'll bring it up next meeting.
So if that's a motion and a second, is it?
I'll second what Steve
Okay.
said.
Yeah. All in favor, please raise your flag. All opposed, like sign. Okay, stands tabled at this time. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move to item number 9. That's consideration and possible action upon the history and future plan for the National Registered Historic District facade sign guidelines and the Landmark Preservation Committee. By request of council.
Yes, that was requested last month to put those items in your packets. You could look through them and, Art said it very well. You know, that is not part of Main Street. We are part of the historical registry. And that's where the preservation committee comes into, to play at, not through Main Street. So you've got the guidelines and the ordinance. In the ordinance, it doesn't really even have them recommend an appointment. That's the reason we're thinking we need to just form a committee and go through the applications, and then administration will make a recommendation to council. So that's not really an action item, more for information.
Opportunity if they want, if
You can,
you want to give direction, now's the opportunity to give direction back to staff related to anything you like staff to do when it pertains to this, the historical, the landmark preservation piece, the preservation committee, anything you want us to look at or do, now's the opportunity if y'all want to give us direction to in one way or another, bring back more information or whatever. If you want to do something there, or, you know, the opportunity's there for you to do that.
I'd suggest that, or I'll put it in the form of a motion. I suggest we make a motion that to allow staff to research the origins, what was set up in 1988 for this committee, and to make sure it still falls in line with what we're doing here as a city. Make sure we're not doing anything wrong, so to speak, and just make sure that this committee is operating at the best that it can.
Make sure it still applies to present day.
Make sure it still applies to present day, because I mean, codes have changed since then, and there's other things that have changed since then. And I just think it'd be fair to do the due diligence and research and make sure that we're still on top of things there.
and all of these rules and regulations were designed in 1988. So, yeah, they are out of date.
Can I second that motion?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your flag. Okay, all opposed, like sign. Okay, good. Item number 9 stands approved. We'll now move to item number 10 on the agenda. That's consideration and possible action upon a request to subdivide the unimproved property adjoining a property in the 1400 block of East Main Street in Council District 2. Mr. Hughes?
Good evening, Mr.
Explain
Mayor, Council, how are y'all this evening? Mr. Michael Richardson has submitted a request, an application to subdivide his property, his family property that's located in the 1400 block of East Main. It's just past where 840 splits off and going at curve. It's been for sale for quite some time. And the larger tract is 105 acres, and they're asking to split off an 18-acre tract and a 32-acre, 33-acre tract off of this to sell. The rest of the property behind these parcels are basically unbuildable, you know, because of the lowlands and flooding and what have you. And so our staff recommends approval for this subdivision on this minor plat. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
The one thing I think I really had after looking at it was, are they planning, once these are sold, to go further with maybe?
Not at this time. This is residential estates is the way it's zoned right now, and they have to be in larger tracts. That being said, it can be subdivided at a future date into 3-acre tracts. That's the minimum size of residential estates. But I've met with one of buyers. They already have contracts on this properties. And I've met with one of the buyers. He's planning on not subdividing his the larger tract, 32 acres at all. The 18-acre tract, I have not met with that buyer yet. We did make sure water and sewer were available for these buyers. But at this time, the man with the larger tract has no intention of subdividing.
I think that's all I have.
Jay, are you in control or Michael?
Jay,
I am currently.
I don't know.
Can you maybe put the aerials where we can actually see the property versus a drawing?
Or if you, I was looking for the layers that we need the satellite view on this one, this map, but I don't think this map does that, but.
It ought to be up on later.
It's there.
That stack is.
I can take
What's
this
the-
over.
What's the fourth option up there?
That?
No, I mean, right there.
Zone filter,
It's one of those.
yeah, zone filter, just, you gotta type in it's a different map actually. Hold on, I can tell you.
Probably found it once before. But it's heavily wooded right now.
You're on East Main and you pass 840, is it on the right or the
It's gonna
left?
be on the left,
Left.
right in that curve. Right in the road curves.
Okay, the fourth one with the 4 squares.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a different, I go to.
No, to the right.
I go to a different map to get this one.
That's how you can get the satellite footage.
You can do it on the zoning map, I don't know why.
But I think you can turn this on and then put the zone map on top of it.
Yeah.
East Main.
This property,
That's it right there.
there's Willow Lake.
So that kind of surrounds Foy Brown's property, Harbor Brown?
It's just past it to the left.
I think all that was Richardson Estate at one time, Richardson Properties.
Except for that little right along the road there. Because that bigger, on the north side of the street, that little bigger chunk that's one over from the lake, that's Mr. Brown's lot that was, it's been divided since then
That's
for
Mr.
the
Brown's house.
children's
right there.
house.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, we did that one.
Yeah.
So where you got your cursor, is that the 35-acre tract?
Well, that's the whole big.
That's the
tract.
whole thing,
That's the
so-
whole thing, we're gonna subdivide out.
Yeah, and it'd be
I think
split
it'd be
about
line
a
right,
third.
right in this area right here, Billy,
Yeah,
right?
right there, yeah. Oh, more or less.
Pretty good chunk of land right there.
And they're gonna do what with it?
The gentleman buying the larger tract is going to build a home there. His daughter is married to one of the Jackson twins that's a dentist here in town, and he's a dentist as well. Probably moving his practice here.
He's gonna build a home on
for
this
the next
side.
3 years.
He'll build a home on this one, this big one here, building.
Yes, that's where he'll build it back. He's gonna get probably 300 yards off the highway.
Have an estate. They'll have an estate. Okay.
If there's nothing else, I'll move to approve it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your flag. All right. Lights, vote. Item number 10 stands approved at this time. Next item on the agenda is number 11, departmental reports. I think you have all the departmental reports possibly in your packets. I'm sure you've already reviewed those. There's a lot of departmental managers here at this time. If there's any questions, most of those could be answered rather quickly. There's Mr. John.
May I speak?
You can speak at this time, John. You just come right on up. You've got the evening.
So first of all, we did move into our new office space over there, week of Snowmageddon, and that was real interesting, but we got in, and I gotta say, we love it, so we really appreciate Jay evicting us out of City Hall. We say that in jest and tease about it, but
Jay was the winner.
it has really worked out nice, and we love the space. So, speaking of that space, I want to make sure, you're gonna see it writing, but I want to make sure I invite y'all in person. On April 7th at 10 a.m., we're gonna have a ribbon cutting with the chamber, and we're gonna have an open house the rest of the day that day. And so we're still kind of fixing up some stuff and tidying up the office, but we'll have it ready on April 7th. So there's your invitation for that. We also hope to be ready to do a presentation with y'all at the next meeting in April on our new business park layout and plan. And so we're targeting, hopefully, if it sticks, going out for bid on construction in August or September. And so we're narrowing down a bunch of stuff right now, and I think we'll be in good shape to make a presentation to the council next month. We are looking, we mentioned a while ago, Conterra is supposed to be getting us a price quote to run a fiber line along our spine road through the business park, the same loop that our water line would take all the way from the loop out to our new road and then back to the loop. And that probably would come from over near the high school, but at any rate, we're waiting for that quote. We're looking forward to getting that. And if it's reasonable enough, then we hope to be able to build that in with the rest of the infrastructure. That would be a really good asset for us to have out there. I don't know if you noticed on the budget that we send y'all, there's a $198,000 line item that's already been spent down toward the bottom. That relates to the rail spur grant that we got last year. And what that is we fronted all the money. It's a reimbursement grant. So we fronted all the money on that to the Russell County Rural Rail District, and they're spending the money out of their account with the contractor to buy the railroad ties. And then when the grant is complete, then we'll get reimbursed by the net RMA for all of that fund. And the last thing is we are advertising right now for Director of Marketing and Business Recruitment and or Business Development rather. And so we've got about 10 or so applications in for that. So we're looking forward to completing that process. So.
Not Fedra. She's not black.
Not Fedra. I don't have your application yet.
That's good. Double dipping.
It pays about 4 times.
I'm sorry.
I shouldn't have said that.
Sales tax executive.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, that's all I have.
Do I get a flag?
You get mine.
No, okay. Jay, you got anything extra?
I don't think I do.
I just want to say thanks for including the minutes from the boards and committees. It's really helpful.
Yes, that is good.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out, but I had already forgotten, so.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we'll try to, we add that section on there, Cheryl did on the agenda, so anytime we have one of our boards or committees that meets, we're gonna throw their minutes in there, and so y'all can see those and review those, and hopefully that'll help. Y'all's understanding what's going on in some of those meetings, as well moving forward, so.
Yeah. And these boards are all open meetings now since the COVID thing has been opened up somewhat. So everyone here, all the council people that are here, are invited to any of those board meetings. They're very interesting sometimes, especially the cemetery board meeting. I think y'all might need to come to that. I think you'll find that very interesting. Okay.
I have a question for the police chief.
Uh-oh.
It'd be easier for me to ask if you came up.
Come on up.
Look at what I've got. nothing bad. This report is kind of hard. Is there a way to lead or hide these first five columns? But you don't really want to shrink and make smaller numbers, but we do. I don't know, I may be the only one that has a question, but every month I kind of have to do this, and I thought, why don't I just ask if. That's not a problem. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Billy, you're next.
Be easier if you come up here, but.
Now, listen, don't think this is the first time that I've read this, but maybe it's the first time I've recognized 106 West Main and 104 West Main and 108 North Jackson. They're all on the commercial and they're also on the residential.
Yeah, that's, I guess a typo, Marty entered in the wrong place.
Okay, so
Just
just should be,
on a commercial, it's downtown where Russell Brown's renovating that building. And dividing it into 3 spaces. I noticed that too, but you kind of beat me to it.
We do what?
it just dawned on me that maybe Russell's building a residence behind his office and his office. Okay, who's next? Public utilities. Who's that?
You can't hide behind that screen.
Come here.
Speech.
It's kind of the same thing that I noticed with Chief Taylor. You got this, and then you've got this over here. But maybe just delete some of the stuff in here where it could all fit them. It just makes it easier to read.
Well, and I think if it just comes over on a legal size document, sometimes I catch
Yeah,
that
it's
and I'll put it on
legal to
legal.
letter, it's where it's getting chopped off.
I'm trying to take them off the hook chair. I'm trying to say it's a scheming situation.
The only other thing I have is on these minutes that we got, who proofread them?
That's why they're draft.
Oh.
Yeah, they're draft because they haven't had another meeting to approve them yet.
Well, I thought that Carol Young was making all these motions and she wasn't even there. I mean, it says where it lists who was there, her name's not over there.
Well, I was at the meeting and she was there.
Yeah, she was
Okay,
there. Yeah.
I kind of assumed that she was there, but it says committee members present and her name's not there.
You know what Susan does?
What?
You know what Susan does?
And then on the minutes of the Main Street Advisory Board, it said, Gabe Gearhart made a motion to accept and Cheryl Jimerson seconded. Can you second motion?
I thought the city manager and city secretary could make motions, but it is not, it's just the city manager. So that item is on their next agenda.
I just thought any ex officio probably couldn't make a motion or.
According to their rules, you can.
Do what?
According to their bylaws, it says you can.
It's in the bylaw.
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's not, that's not normal, I would say. But
I'm done.
And I will say, the director will love this, especially Davis if he's listed on Zoom. We're gonna work on this template for these reports for all the directors, so they look very similar and same across the board, so they're a lot easier to read. And I've been telling them I'm gonna put a template together for the last 3 months, and they've been giving me a hard time wondering where the template is. Now I'm really gonna get a hard time wondering where the template is on that. But I wanna make it for that reason. Things a little easier in a format to where it's succinct and easier for you guys to see and read the information that you're not normally used to seeing all the time like we are, so. Appreciate it.
You bet.
And it's probably best not just to make a carbon copy month after month.
That's the other reason they're gonna do it.
Okay, one more thing, Billy. April 17th is city cleanup?
Yes, sir.
Right, that's correct. So
Public Waste has been very forthcoming and helping us a lot.
we're having, Keep Henderson Beatles folks are going to do a proclamation at the next county meeting. And they'll read the proclamation there. The county wants to join up, so I just thought I'd let you know. Okay, that's gonna happen. Okay, anyone else? Anything to add? Kurt's trying to hire some employees. He's our Parks and Recreation Department manager, so we're looking forward to that. He's interviewing some folks. This might be interesting. So,
And so forth.
that's right, that's right. That's a plus. Okay, I'm done. Anybody else have anything to add else? Okay. All right, let's move on to executive session. We will now move into executive session after 7:18. Pick your clock. 7:18. Good. Ready? Okay, 8:20 p.m. We'll now return to regular session from the executive session and take no action as a result of the executive session. We'll move on to item number 14, that's to adjourn.
I move we go home.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Wave your flag. You want to go home? All right.
If you want to object.
We'll go home at 8:21. Thank you very much.
You can end or whatever it is.
trying to do this.
So maybe we